Hey everybody, I'm Kate Conroy.
And I'm Vinny Civitello.
And this is Other People's Business, which is the podcast from the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, the largest statewide business association in the country. We release a new episode every other Wednesday, so be on the lookout for that. Shout out to New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group. They do home, auto, and workers' comp, so check them out if you need some updated coverage. They are the official sponsor of the show.
Just a couple housekeeping matters before we get started. You can check this podcast out anywhere where you can get a podcast. That's like iTunes, Google Play, Amazon's Alexa. We throw the videos up on YouTube. If you want to be notified anytime we're new, you can just go to njbia.org/subscribe, and they'll give you all the links on the different networks where you can subscribe. So with all of that out of the way, let me introduce our special guest today, Rachel Durkan of Paradigm Marketing and Design. So Rachel, say hi. Let the audience hear your voice.
Hello, everyone.
We're so glad you could be here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So today's icebreaker is, what are you currently binging?
Scrambled eggs and Downton Abbey.
Really? It's late for Downton Abbey.
It is. I've been going through this phase where I've been watching shows that were totally acclaimed and won all these Emmys, and I was like, I don't want to watch that. And so I've been I actually did The West Wing before this, so I'm going backwards, and I'm really pleased with it. It was good.
That's awesome. And when you say scrambled eggs, do you mean you're making a lot of scrambled eggs for people who live in your house?
I just, for some reason, I've wanted scrambled eggs lately.
So funny.
It's my go-to breakfast of choice.
I thought maybe I had missed some new show that everybody was watching.
I'm watching Downton Abbey while I'm eating scrambled eggs.
I love it. That's perfect.
A double binge.
Yeah.
Vin, what are you binging?
I haven't gotten to finish or start anything new in a while. We did watch, we're trying to get a little bit more out of the Disney Plus subscription. So I found out that there's a third Beauty and the Beast movie. So we decided to put that on because I'm a big fan of the first one.
That's
and man, was that awful.
I didn't know there was a second. There was a second.
The second one was the Christmas movie. There's and here's the weird thing about Beauty and the Beast, and I assume that The Little Mermaid is probably about the same way. I didn't watch the Little Mermaid sequels, but Beauty and the Beast starts with them in a certain place, and it ends with them in a certain place. And it ends, I'm going to give a little bit of a spoiler here on Beauty and the Beast 1, because the statute of limitations on that should have expired by now. But it ends with them happily ever after, not magical anymore. They're all human. Great. So if you want to have a sequel to that or make more, it has to happen inside the first film in order for that to work. So that's what both of the sequels do. There's that montage scene where we're seeing something that wasn't there before, and they're throwing snowballs at each other. And that one little yada, yada, yada montage in the middle of Beauty and the Beast 1 is where two films now take place. So, it doesn't make a lot of sense, because, they can't be totally in love, because, they're not totally in love yet at that point in the movie. And it was just bad. First of all, the second one is powerful. Yeah,
that sounds awful. That sounds like a land grab to me. That sounds like a cash grab. Disney was
totally.
There's a built-in audience. We're gonna get the B team to write a terrible script, and the people who write music for us, they're already on staff, so we'll just get them to do whatever. And the parents are going to be forced to buy this schlock because, again, built-in audience. I'm sorry, I hate Disney. That's just
at least now we don't have to go out.
I can't say I hate Disney. Come on.
I'm not a fan. I don't know. It just seems like
I'm more often mad at Disney than I'm happy with them.
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, the originals. Come on.
They've ruined Star Wars.
I'll give you the originals. Yeah.
I gotta say, though, watching Little Mermaid as an adult now with two young kids, it's really a terrible movie, because it's like a 16-year-old who doesn't listen to her dad, who does whatever she wants and complains. And everyone's rooting for her. That, and you know what I watched the other day that was terrifying was Pinocchio. I had it on with my 4-year-old, and I had to turn it off because they take the puppet to Pleasure Island. I was like, I didn't understand these things when I was a child, but it's pretty terrible.
It is totally terrible. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Disney. They've ruined Star Wars. Vin, weren't you just recently telling me that George Lucas is lobbying to take them back and fix them, even though he wasn't great either?
Yeah, everybody is saying that Kathleen Kennedy, who's the president of Lucasfilm, is to blame for everything that's gone wrong with Star Wars since Disney took over. and I don't disagree with that, but I blame George Lucas for everything that went wrong with Star Wars before Disney took over. So bringing him back and putting him back in charge is just going to be like even worse.
Yeah.
So,
Totally agree. I'm not a fan.
Oh. Well, I don't know. I gotta say, like,
Kate,
the
what are you
Frozen
binging?
and Moanas are pretty amazing.
I'll give you that. Frozen is great. Moana's great. Well, the first Frozen was great, but again, the land grant.
I loved the second one.
Yes, I'm sorry. You're right. I love the second one as well. But there have been a couple of like minis that have been okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Kate got really passionately into Frozen 2 because I told her before she watched it that somebody, like main characters, more than one main character in that film die. And she was like, oh, what? So like Hans? And I'm like, no. If there are 4 characters that you think of in that film, 2 of them are goners. And, that doesn't not happen.
That's true.
Like,
That's true.
She's texting me while she's watching this, and she was just like blowing her mind.
It was. I was texting him as I was watching it, and I was like, this can't be!
That's actually pretty good to really think that it was like over and done with. Like Olaf is melted forever. That's pretty awesome.
I did. I really thought he was gone. It made me so sad.
That would be real. That was pretty sad when I watched that.
I know. His recap of the first movie is like part of the second movie.
I could watch that on repeat over and over again.
I want him to start.
I told Kate they should just make like a little short film series where he does like all the Disney films and just explains them.
Yeah,
they did
that's true.
They did a short film series for Toy Story. It was like 4 key asks a question, and those were just like mind-numbingly terrible. And I'm like, that would have actually been a good idea. Why not just do that instead? But yeah.
Totally agree. Anyway, all right, so I'm still working my way through RuPaul's Drag Race and the Umbrella Academy. And then for fun, I'm still also kind of working through Kath and Kim, that silly Australian show on Netflix. It's so very silly, but
heard of that one.
Sometimes I just need silly in my life, you know?
I went at the height of COVID, I went through a romantic comedy phase where I was like, just give me the most garbage movie you can find as long as it ends happy. And that was my big binge for a while.
Yes, I recently, with a girlfriend, she forced the issue. We were doing a socially distanced movie night, and she insisted on Kate and Leopold, and I was like, ugh. Why would anybody do that to themselves? And I'm telling you, by the end, I was like, they're going to get together. Time travel is not going to be a barrier. Yeah, I wish I was.
I occasionally get really into romantic comedies. Like the last one I watched was Bridget Jones's Baby, which is, I'm going to admit, not the first time I've seen it either. So it doesn't hold a candle to the first one, but I was willing to watch it twice. So Rachel, tell us what you do at Paradigm.
So Paradigm is a web branding and marketing agency, and we serve often, besides building websites, purpose-driven websites for our clients and and helping them with their branding strategy, we often serve as their outsourced marketing department. We specialize in working with both nonprofits and B2B services that have a consultative sale. So if you have a challenging sale or something that has to be explained, that is a great market for us because we specialize in helping them create marketing and sales funnels that are going to shorten their sales cycle and increase the number of leads they're going to gain access to.
Wow, that is incredible. And you told me, I think, that this business started as like a hobby, right?
It did. After college, I went to college for marketing. And after college, I had a couple real jobs. And in one of those real jobs, I went back to school for web and graphic design just to strengthen my skills. And I realized I liked making websites and designing them. And so I did that for fun at nights and on the weekends for a couple of years. And it just started kind of taking off. And the next thing I knew, I was making more money at my hobby than my real job.
That's incredible. And you, if I understand correctly, you kind of didn't miss a beat because you and your team were already just about virtual, right?
You mean with COVID started?
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so we have 12 team members. About 70% of them are in New Jersey, but we also have employees in Canada, Hawaii, Louisiana, all over the country. So a lot of our team members were in a virtual environment anyway, and the ones that were local, we would only meet 1 to 2 days a week in the office, and the rest of the days were local. So when this happened, we certainly had some challenges and had some adjustments to do, but we had some pretty good systems in place already, so it wasn't that painful for us.
That's amazing. So I'm just curious, how are your clients doing in COVID times?
So what's really interesting is I've seen two different sets of people or companies come out of this. So when this happened in March, I remember in like 2 weeks, I got like 3 phone calls a day of clients firing us. Like our sales went down like 40% in like literally a week and a half. I drank so much wine that month. Like I single-handedly kept the alcohol store down the street open. But and what I was realizing was the ones that stayed and the ones that left, there was like this fight or flight response. So there was a lot of leaders that were like, oh my gosh, I got to cut costs. We'll worry about it later. Like, cut as fast as you can and to have the cash on hand. And then there was some other, and I always say that they were like the flight. They hid in the bunker and they're like, wake me up when COVID's over and I'll come back out. And they were going to hold on to their cash reserves as best they could. And then there was clients that were in that fight mode and they doubled down. And I have to tell you, and we did that too. We doubled down also. And we were in a pretty bad place. We were like, one more major hit and I was going to have to consider some cost, like some serious cost cutting strategies. But at the moment we had some cash and we were just under breaking even. So I could keep our whole team on. I didn't have to make major changes. And I said, listen, if you've got nothing to do, you're marketing for Paradigm now. And we just started pulling together strategy after strategy, campaign after campaign. And now we shifted our model a little bit. We shifted our target audience a lot. And now, I mean, gosh, in July, we had the best month we ever had. We're up 70% from January. So it's really awesome. And I've seen the same thing I think I was saying this on another interview I was on, that not that I would want COVID to ever happen, but I think it's the best thing that's happened to our business because it forced change, it forced innovation, it forced new standard operating procedures. And my clients who did that also with us, we have a lot of clients that were in that fight mode and pivoted and positioned and moved as fast as they could. They're all up also. So I don't know. I've been seeing it's really it's been a good stress test, I think, to the environment.
So I keep thinking of two things. The first,
it's great to see a COVID.
Sorry.
A COVID what?
Success story.
Yeah.
Is what I was going to say.
Yeah, so I keep thinking of two things. I remember I lived through the 2008-9 recession when the world just kind of ended. And I was in sales at the time. And I remember,
guess that if you're listening to this podcast, you lived through the 2008, 2009.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. There are some, I feel like I know a lot of young professionals and they didn't experience the recession the way that, right, exactly. And I remember watching company after company contract their marketing dollars. And you tell a story so well about how if you contract during times of crisis, you're not going to end up in the space you actually want to end up in. Like it's actually the wrong thing to do.
Actually, so when this happened, I did a ton of research comparing the 2008, 2009 recession. And of course, it's a very different environment, different recession, but we can look at what the crisis caused companies to do. And several studies found, one particular that I'm thinking of, that they did a study of 600 companies and middle market companies. And they found that the ones that marketed aggressively during those years showed a 275% growth over the next 5 years. And the companies that didn't, that just kind of like hid and waited, they only showed, if they survived at all, a 19% growth. So it's interesting if you look at the statistics, even thinking about it, crisis breeds innovation. So what I've seen is in 2008, small business, I don't even remember the stats now, account for over 50% of the employment in the United States. And hundreds of thousands went out of business. And so there was huge, massive unemployment, not quite high it is now, but highest that we've seen in a very long time at that time. And what happened was we had this major shift, I'm sure you remember, to gig workers. Like it was the gig economy. So you got laid off, you started a small business, you did contracting work, and that actually remained pretty significantly over the next 10 years. But what happened pretty quick was companies started popping up to support this new environment. So think Airbnb, Uber. They created infrastructure for gig workers to work around. And even that's the time, Amazon really took off. They already had their infrastructure, but it went even further. And by the way, I heard an interesting ad on Amazon that makes me think they're even going to open logistics to you know, entrepreneurs as well. They're delicious, it's part of their business. But the whole world shifted because certain people were paying attention and they were able to capitalize on it. And so I think it's really important that we're constantly paying attention right now, because it's changing at such a rapid pace, but there's an opportunity to be had if you're watching.
Mm-hmm. So the other thing that I've been thinking of is, you know, there is this sort of philosophy that you're supposed to put only positivity out into the universe so that it will like beam it back at yourself. But the story of the prisoner of war survivors, I heard that story long before I ever met you, but it has lived inside of me because it made so much sense. So could you tell that story really quickly?
Yeah, I don't have the paper in front of me, so I hope I get it all right. But so Jim Collins wrote this book, Good to Great, and which is an excellent book. You should definitely read it. It's a little dated, but the premise is still awesome. And in it, he interviews a man named James Stockdale. I think we say it with the S. And James Stockdale was a prisoner of war. He was a vice presidential candidate. He was a officer in the Navy during the Vietnam War, and his plane was shot down, and he was taken prisoner of war for 7 years. He was beaten, he was abused, his leg was broken multiple times, he was starved. It was really a horrible experience. And just imagine 7 years as a prisoner like that. And he was seen as a leader. He was the highest ranking officer to be a prisoner in the whole war. And so everybody looked up to him. He had to lead his men through this terrible crisis. He even at one point led an uprising against their captors. And he was interviewed for this book, and they asked him, you know, how did you survive? How did the men survive this? And he said, the men who said, oh, it'll be over by Thanksgiving, we'll be out by Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving will come and Thanksgiving would go. And they say, oh, we'll be out by Christmas. And then Christmas will come and Christmas would go. And they say, okay, well, Easter, we'll be out by Easter, and Easter would come and Easter would go. He said it was those people who died of a broken heart. And so the lesson was, we always think it's the optimists who are going to, you know, if you're optimistic, it'll, you know, a happy attitude will change the world. But there's this healthy mixture of cynicism and optimism that you have, because you have to accept your current environment and decide how you're going to live in it. So being optimistic is one thing, but accepting the situation you're in and then determining how to be optimistic about it is what's most important, not just kind of living on hope, so to speak.
Yeah, I love that. The first time I heard that, I was like, the person telling the story said, if you have a very, very, very realistic understanding of your circumstances, you can get through anything. And I was
exactly.
Like,
wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's true. I mean, you have to be positive, but you have to accept the current reality for what it is and not live in a dream world. And, you know, I've been using that a lot as I'm speaking to clients and, you know, doing strategy sessions and consulting, because that mindset is what's going to make or break the growth of your business or your success over the next couple months as we all face these new challenges. And we have to understand that, you know, the world is changing so fast. I think we're all got a little complacent right now because we're used to it, but I really believe that the fall is going to bring some new challenges for us. And so we have to make sure that we continue to react and be aware of our reality in order to, you know, maximize how we handle it in a positive way.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, on that note, I think we're
definitely remembering back to the beginning of COVID when I was like, oh yeah, it's just going to be a few weeks.
I did too.
And then it was just
and like
a month,
so
you know.
naive. We were so naive.
I remember thinking like, this can't go past April. They won't let it.
Well, you know, I was privy to a meeting with a lot of business owners out of Italy when the crisis was happening right before it hit us that bad. And the way they were speaking was pretty terrifying. But, you know, now it's our normal. But, you know, yeah, we were all so naive at the time. Oh.
Yeah, I remember thinking 2 weeks. They're not going to let us stay home for more than 2 weeks.
No.
I mean,
yeah.
And they, like in my head, I don't know who I thought they was. Because I knew that it wasn't
it just
anybody.
seems unfathomable, you know?
Yeah, it really does seem completely unfathomable. And the way that we have, you know, as much as I really freaking hate this word at this point, pivoted, as much as we have pivoted, I agree with you. I think that fall is going to have its own challenges and issues. And if we're not prepared to like roll with those punches the same way that we've been rolling, I don't know. But yeah.
And I think it's important to pay attention because even now I'm seeing, you know, certain companies are going to die and there's nothing that we can do about it. You know, that some just can't live past the circumstances, which is horrible. But this is going to breed others that are going to be being born. So, if you're in retail, it's going to be really hard. All these retailer chains declaring bankruptcy. But on the other hand, delivery services are way up. Technology services are way up. So there's going to be a new way of living and thinking that, business is going to thrive again. It's just going to be a new normal.
Yeah. Okay, so on that note, I think we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to play a game. And we're back. And it is now time to play Awful or Awesome. Are you guys ready? I'm going to name 3 things in quick succession. You are always ready. And you have to decide quickly if they're awful or awesome and be prepared to defend your answers. Ready? Okay, so the first one is kind of silly, even though it's not. When I was doing my pre-taping call with Rachel, she told a story, and so I had to include casual misogyny in this list of awful. I mean, I think we can all
sound too silly.
We can all agree it's universally awful. But Rachel, do you want to tell your story?
Yeah, well, I don't even know how this came up, but I casually mentioned that when I was pregnant with my second child, I was like pretty pregnant. And an old gentleman came up to me, and I think he was trying to be nice. And he said, when you have this baby, you're going to have to slow down and just, calm down and not work quite as much. And I said, well, I've had a child before. I think I figured out the work-life balance thing. And he's like, no, after 2, you're going to have to just take a break. Which I was like, thanks so much for your advice. I'll see you later.
I love that. Unsolicited advice from old men. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was good. But the best one, and this one's not casual. I remember years ago, before I had kids, I went to a sales meeting with a man. And at the end of it, he said, well, why should I hire you to build my website? You're probably just going to have a baby and not work anymore. And my response to him was, well, if you want me to have your baby, you're going to have to pay a lot more. And then he didn't hire me.
That's fantastic.
I love it.
Oh my God. All right. So I think we can all agree casual misogyny is awful, right?
Awful. Yeah.
Awful, obviously. Next up is the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. So Vin, you've been complaining about this thing for as long as I think I've known you, maybe. And this is the first time that I've heard that somebody else knows about it. So go ahead. You guys talk about it.
I mean, wait, why do you hate, well, we talked about Disney earlier, but why do you hate Mickey Mouse Clubhouse?
I didn't necessarily hate Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, but I think that anything that your kid watches too much, can really get into your head. So especially during COVID, we used to have a very good limit on how much TV our daughter
totally
could
out
watch
the window,
a day.
yeah.
She was, yeah, exactly. She was 2 going into this. She's 3 now. And, at some point we were both working full time. We didn't have like a babysitter that could come in, and we couldn't sit down and play with her. So, the TV was obsessed with and watched all the time was Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. And I really tried to steer her away from it because it's not like there is no educational merit to Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, but it's not like on the level of, say, like a Sesame Street where that's like the primary focus.
Yeah.
So I was like, if you're going to be watching something that much, why this?
At least have it. Okay, so let me give you 2 tips. Storybots on Netflix is amazing. They teach things like, why is the sky blue? I kind of knew from like 6th grade science class, but like not really. Like, how does your eardrum work? It's like fascinating. He was explaining like how my eyeball worked the other day. I was like, you're real smart. And he's 4. And then the other one is number blocks, which is pretty awesome. It teaches them how to count. And he was like, he learned about the number 1 million, and his face like on the TV was like shock and awe. Like, I can't believe there's a number that big. So, and those are pretty obsessive because they have songs included. So if you want to go for something educational, we've got that on repeat. But I still like
I'm down for it.
Yeah, go for it. I'll send you the links.
Love it. Okay, so where would you come down, awful or awesome, on Mickey Mouse Clubhouse?
Me? Oh, I think it's pretty awesome. I'm definitely for it.
I'm sure it's fine. It's
You're just sick of it.
Yeah, I mean, she's rolled through the whole series multiple times now. She's since moved on to Sophia the First. And rolled through that so many times that I'm like, we got to be ready for something else, right?
That's what I understand about kids. They want to watch okay, so ours is RoboCarpoli from the moment he was born. I don't even know where it came from, but if I have to watch RoboCarpoli one more time, I'm going to shove something through my eyeball because like we have now watched the 7 seasons, probably, I kid you not, 25 times.
Yeah. And you try, like every so often
Let's
I'll
watch
throw
something
something else
else. Yeah.
on. Yeah. And like there are times where she even likes them. She'll be like, "Oh, that was fun, but can we watch Sophia again?" And I'm just like,
Yeah, I'm with you.
Love it. Okay,
Yeah.
last one is Zumba.
Zumba.
Yeah, I'll go first. I think it's awful, but that's because I am uncoordinated. I can't do any kind of I will trip on my feet and I will fall on my face, and it's embarrassing for everybody. I just am not the hand-eye coordination, or maybe just the feet coordination. I can't do it. And so, yeah. I also can't line dance. I can't do like the electric slide. So every time, at weddings and stuff, the Macarena was just easy enough. There was no footwork.
Just barely. The footwork throws you off. I can't do Zumba either.
Really?
Oh my God, it's awful. You know what? I'm really, really tall, and like my limbs are very long, and I have a hard time controlling them in an elegant way. Like I just can't. And my feet, my hands don't listen to what my brain is telling them to do, or there's like a delay.
I'm glad.
Yeah, I can dance, but that kind of coordination just doesn't work. I don't know.
Yeah.
Every time I've tried to take an exercise class where you're all supposed to be in unison, it's always been the same thing, where the whole class and the teacher are in perfect synchronicity.
Yep.
And I'm like 3 steps behind, like dying in the back. It's just, I'm sure the teacher is very supportive of it, but the rest of the class, you just think they're judging you, and then I'm out.
That's
I
no
can't do it.
fun.
Oh, they're totally judging you. Like, that's not even a maybe. They're totally judging you, which is the worst, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I think we talked about that a lot on our episode with the gyms with Mike Luzio, where we were saying like you'd like to believe that like everybody could just be supportive of everyone and like understand that people are in different places than you are, but no. Everybody's got to be a jerk.
Come on. Yeah, even in my own home I won't do it like on a tape, because I just my dog
I
looks
thought you
at
were
me
gonna
funny.
say even in my own home people are judging me when I'm
Oh, well, then my dog is judging me, my kids are judging me, my husband is a wonderful dancer, and he is like, are you sure are you okay? So he's like,
are you okay?
I'm sure I would get that too. Like, I'd be doing it and somebody in the background would be like, you need help. But yeah. So our next segment is, what is one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self?
I would tell them to not be or take more risks, I guess I'd say. So I think I was always, especially in the early years of starting this business, I always let worry about failure hold me back or prevent me from taking risks. And I had a really great coach once say to me, you can't get to second base with your foot still on first. And I say that to myself a lot now, because if you really want to get where you got to go, you've got to take a risk. And after 10 years of doing this, I still take, it's still a little scary, but I've become pretty immune to risk. I'm like, it'll work out. Because it has. 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 times it works. And sometimes it's an epic fail, but you get back up. So I think I would definitely tell myself to take more risks.
Anything coming up you want to promote?
So we have a number of webinars that are coming up. One of them is about leveraging marketing, cross-marketing strategies and partnerships in order to drive down advertising costs and increase your reach to new audiences. So that's going to be on our website, and I can send that out to you guys to share. Our website is paradigm-md.com.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
And
how can people get a hold of you if they need to, or if they want to take advantage of some of your services?
Sure. So they can go to our website. Again, I'll say it, Paradigm, PARADIGM-MD, like marketinganddesign.com. And all of our information's on there. My email address is on there, and they can reach out to me that way.
Excellent. And we actually have a joint venture together on JBIA and Paradigm Marketing Design. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So when all this started, one of the first things we did was, my sales team was having a hard time figuring out how to continue to network because everybody shut down and was freaking out, and there was really no way to stay connected to people. So we started a group called Table for Four, where you could register, and then we would lump you into groups of 4, and we'd have a virtual lunchtime event where you would get to spend 45 minutes or an hour with 3 other people, learn about the businesses, connect, talk personally, professionally, and maybe possibly refer each other. So a couple months later, fast forward, NJBIA joined us in that partnership, which we're so excited about. And so every Monday at noon, we have Table for Four, and you can register at any time on our website.
Yep, we are delighted to be involved, and we've already found that it is just an extraordinary way to continue to make connections with people. So, yeah, very excited. Okay,
Awesome.
I think that is the show. Thank you to our listeners, especially our subscribers. We really appreciate the support. Thank you to New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, the official sponsor of the show. They do home, auto, and workers' comp, so check them out. And finally, a big thank you to Rachel Durkan of Paradigm Marketing and Design for joining us today.
Thank you so much. This is awesome.
It was a treat for us too.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you next time. Bye.